Hello and welcome back to Lunch Break Heroes. Today we are gonna search for a source of unlimited artwork for our Dungeons & Dragons game. If you've got a character or a party that you really love, then commissioning custom artwork to commemorate them is the way to go. And though the results are totally worth it, it's really expensive and time consuming. So today we're gonna pit some AI art generators against each other to generate artwork for our Dungeons & Dragons game. We're gonna have them compete in different categories, creating different kinds of artwork. Then we're gonna compare, contrast, and rank them to see which one rises to the top. I'm gonna rank them 1 to 10 in the following categories. The first one is the fidelity of the image. Is there actually anything in the picture that can be identifiable as a thing? Next is the quality of the image. Is it sharp or is it blurry? Is it something that I would want to put in one of my publications? Then there's the amount of control that we have. Can we tweak the image or are we stuck with what it gives us? Then there's ease of use. Can we just dive in and quickly start creating artwork, or do we need a bachelor's degree in artificial intelligence to get this thing going? Lastly, there's the cost. Now, all of these are gonna generate free artwork for us. However, if we want to get the most out of them, there is a cost involved, so we're gonna be looking at that. So without further ado, let's take a look at that first category. First up, we have portraits. Now, if you use a virtual tabletop, then having portraits for player characters and NPCs is fantastic. For this category, I want to see which generator can give us the best tiefling portrait that looks kind of like a painting. First up, we have Midjourney. Now, like a lot of the other generators here, Midjourney is a text-to-image generator, meaning we describe what we want to see and then it does its best to interpret that into an image. But now I want to create our tiefling. We're going to start with the / command imagine. And you see, it wants us to provide a prompt. There are endless possibilities. So I'm gonna go ahead and tab, and we're gonna type what we want to see. Let's go ahead and say, I want a portrait of a red tiefling woman with long curved horns. And I want that as an oil painting. And we're gonna press enter and go. So what this does is it sends this to the Midjourney servers, and Midjourney's AI program goes out, finds a whole bunch of images across the internet that have something to do with our prompt or pieces of it. So it knows we want a tiefling, and it knows we want it as an oil painting. Now what's interesting here is in one of the examples in the top right, that's going to be number 2, it has actually generated a painting with a frame. Up in the top left, this is really very impressionistic, very weird. I'm not going to say it's bad, but it's definitely not character artwork worthy. Bottom left, we start showing some real promise. All right, this is actually looking like a tiefling. And then bottom right, this one I think is probably just as promising as the bottom left. We've got the horns, the whole shebang, and it looks good. I think my personal favorite is right here in the bottom left. I want to make a larger version of this one, so I'm going to say upscale 1, 2, 3. We want to upscale number 3. All right, so we're done here. It's upscaled it, it's added a lot more detail, and just from this little preview here, I can see that it looks a lot more like an oil painting. You can see all the knife or the brush strokes there. And yeah, I mean, it really does look like an oil painting. This is really good in terms of what a computer can kick out. If you had told me that a person created this, I would actually believe you. All right, so Midjourney has created a really cool tiefling for us. It wasn't as red as I thought it should be, but there was definitely red in the image there, so that was good. We're gonna go ahead and turn our attention to Nightcafe and see what it can do with the exact same prompt. All right, so we can access Nightcafe over at nightcafe.studio. We're gonna go ahead and head over to the Create section, and we're gonna choose a creation method here. Now I want to do text to image and video because that's just kind of what we're doing here. We wanna compare apples to apples. I'm gonna go ahead and take that same prompt and paste it into your text prompt. So we've got a bunch of stuff here. We can choose a style: oil painting, cosmic, sinister, candy, gouache, fantasy, a whole bunch of other stuff. Now, because we can select a style, I don't think we need to specify in our prompt. I'm gonna go ahead and remove that. So now we're just stuck with portrait of a red tiefling woman with long curved horns. Let's see how it does now. We're gonna scroll all the way down and we're gonna choose our algorithm, artistic or coherent. Artistic is better at creating beautiful textures. Coherent is better at composing the image. Now, because this is a portrait of a humanoid figure, I think we should probably go with coherent. So this is gonna cost us 1 credit. I have 23 of them. Let's go ahead and use it. Great, 1 credit. All right, and off we go. It's only been a few seconds, but we're at 43% now, and holy hell, what is that? I wanted an oil painting, not a Picasso. See, we've got an eye here and an eye there. Okay, at the very least, it has 2 eyes. I can see a nose and a mouth. Is this a big white hat or something? I don't know what this is actually pulling in here and using. All right, I think it's safe to say that Nightcafe doesn't actually know what a tiefling is, and it's afraid to find out. All right, we're gonna go ahead and just move on to our next one, Starry AI. So here we are at starryai.com. We're gonna go ahead and start creating. Now, as soon as we start creating, we get to select which AI we want. We can do Altair, which produces dreamlike images that are more abstract, or we can do Orion, which produces unreal reality, often more cohesive. So this is already sounding a lot like Nightcafe, where we have those 2 paths that we can go down. I still think we should go with the more cohesive option here because we're creating a humanoid. So I'm gonna go ahead and select Orion, and then we enter our text prompt. I'm gonna go ahead and paste. Now here we can add styles, we can give it an initial image to start from, more creation options, canvas sizes. I already like the options here for creating. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a style. Let's see what our options here. So Rococo, Seb McKinnon, Tonalism, Yajun Ching, National Geographic Photo. That's interesting. This is a fantasy painting here, Greg Rutkowski. So we're gonna go ahead and select that one. Ooh, we can actually select multiple, Lovecraftian and Greg Rutkowski. That, I think, is my vibe, Lovecraftian and Greg Rutkowski. Let's go with that. So we're gonna do 250 iterations. It'll cost me 2 credits. I don't know how many credits. Oh, I have 84 credits. All right, let's go ahead and screw it. Let's do 900 iterations. Let's see what that gets us. All right, this is gonna take some time, so we're gonna go ahead and jump to the future. Okay, wow, 900 iterations took about 10 minutes to actually complete, but we're left with this little creation right here. What's really interesting to me is this little bit of text down here. It looks very much like Star Wars, and in fact, with the red little thing right here, I think it actually generated a Twi'lek, not a tiefling. It is humanoid. It's not terribly feminine like I was hoping, so I don't know that I would use this as a portrait for any characters. So among those 3 for the portraits, I think the clear winner here is Midjourney. It created something that was actually comprehensive, and it actually looked like a tiefling. It looked like a character. I wouldn't hesitate to use this particular creation in one of my publications or in a game or something like that. Now, before we get on to that next category, you've heard me talk about publishing and creating adventures here in this video. I want to let you know that you can check out all of Lunch Break Heroes adventures over on lunchbreakheroes.com and patreon.com. Over on Patreon, you can get all of our adventures for as little as $1 for the print-friendly versions. If you want to upgrade to the silver tier at $2, you can get the full color PDFs along with all of the maps created by the incomparable DM Andy. For $5 at our gold tier, you can get all of that other stuff, plus all of our NPC portraits and tokens that we generate with our AI art generators. At our $10 platinum tier, you get all that other stuff and our Foundry virtual tabletop modules that you can download and start running with your gaming group right away. These are created by Pyram King, and if you use Foundry, if you love Foundry, definitely check out Pyram's Patreon as well. He's got some fantastic stuff over there. Now, all of that being said, let's check out our next category. All right, next up we have items. Let's go ahead and see which one of these generators can create us a sword. First up, let's head back over to Midjourney and see what this one can do. Now, it was the clear winner on the portrait front, so let's see how it handles creating our imaginary weapon. So we're gonna go ahead and do our slash command imagine, followed by the prompt, silvery broadsword reflecting sunlight. Let's not give it any style or anything and just see what it comes out with. Are we just getting reflections of sunlight here on a lake or what? What is this? The anticipation really gets to you. Okay, so we're done here. This one down here looks the closest to being an actual sword. Everything else here is very much just rays of sunshine. Let's do variations on 4. Let's see what else it can come up with. Now, in all of my playing with Midjourney, I haven't ever really had a good experience with variations. They always seem to create something crappier. But let's go ahead and see if that's the case here. All right, these ones actually look pretty interesting. This one right here, the top left, actually seems to be our best bet. Let's go ahead and upscale that, see what it looks like. All of these just kind of look like one big blade. I wouldn't want to actually handle these swords. All right, so it's done upscaling. Let's take a look at this and really blow it up. So we've got our blade here. It's almost like a crystal blade because we can see through the edges here. And we've got this bit of light that's super cool coming up there. It's almost like it's sucking in the light or the energy or something. And then down here we have kind of a cross guard and then sort of a handle disappearing off into the bottom of the screen. This is actually not bad. With a little bit of Photoshop, I think I would totally use this in one of my publications. So let's go ahead and move on to Nightcafe and see what it does with that same prompt. We're gonna paste in our prompt there. And I want to try a different sort of style here. I want to do fantasy because Dungeons and Dragons is a fantasy game, so it only makes sense, right? All right, once again, we're gonna do coherent and we're gonna create our image. All right, we've got our first glimpses of what this image is gonna be at 43%. Looks like a bird, a dove. I don't see a sword anywhere in this. All right, so now we're complete. And this image makes no sense to me whatsoever. I see sunlight. I do not see a broadsword. Barely anything silver. This is... yeah, I don't know what I'm looking at here. Moving on to Starry AI. All right, we're gonna paste in our prompt here. We're gonna add some style. Let's try a little Seb McKinnon here. We're gonna go ahead and do the landscape canvas size here, and I am not going to do 900 iterations again because that took for freaking ever. So Starry AI has finally finished creating my silvery broadsword reflecting sunlight, and I mean it's reflecting something, but I'm not entirely sure it's a broadsword. So yeah, not really great on the image front here. Okay, clearly Midjourney is the winner again on the item category, although I wouldn't even say that that's something to write home about. The broadsword, while it looked cool, wasn't really what I had in mind. I wanted a photorealistic portrait of a broadsword. This thing didn't even really have a handle. I suppose I could have been more specific and that might have given me a better image, but it is what it is. Next up, we have landscapes. What adventure doesn't take place in a sprawling fantasy landscape? The Underdark? Yeah, I guess you're right. Anyways, let's see what the AI generators can do for landscapes. Here we are back at Midjourney. Let's go ahead and imagine a sprawling fantasy landscape. I could be more specific. I could say I want trees, I want mountains in the background, I want a stream in the foreground, but I'm really curious if, given a whole lot of leeway, will it come up with anything that's interesting? All right, it's finished. So let's go ahead and open up our preview here. And you know what? These actually look really cool. I like these. All right, top left, that's super cool. This has, top right, this has like these interesting towers. Maybe that's like ruins of old civilizations that have been overgrown with vines and all that jazz. I don't know if these are clouds or if this is a lake or something. This looks like a golf course down here, but whatever. This has got this one down here, has really interesting landscape formations in the back, and then like a valley or something here. This one's just a nice broad view of this huge sprawling landscape. It really took the whole idea of a sprawling landscape to heart and gave us these big open vistas. The one that catches my eye the most, I think, is the top left. I'm gonna go ahead and upscale that and see what we get. So while we're waiting for this to generate, what do you call the security guards that stand outside the Samsung factory? The Guardians of the Galaxy. All right, so this is finished now. It's upscaled it. It's added a whole lot of detail. So it's added a whole lot of, looks like a lot of noise. I don't really care for that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna head back to Midjourney here, and I'm gonna say I want a light upscale redo. Now what that does is it upscales the image, but it doesn't add a whole lot of extra information. So we end up with something that looks a lot more like what we saw in the small scale preview, just bigger. All right, so that's done. I'm gonna open that up, and yeah, so we can see there's a lot less noise in this image. So if I switch between these, you can really get a sense of what's going on here. So yeah, this is really cool. There's not a whole lot of added noise in here, but we still get the feel for this sprawling fantasy landscape. All right, heading over to Nightcafe. My hopes are not high with this one, but you know what? We're giving it a landscape. All right, we're gonna paste in our prompt here, a sprawling fantasy landscape. I'm going to select the fantasy style once again because it just makes sense. I'm gonna go with the artistic version this time rather than coherent, because coherent hasn't been very coherent so far. Let's go ahead and create and see what it can do. All right, so our sprawling fantasy landscape by Nightcafe is done, and it, I was hoping the preview would be a little bigger, but let's go ahead and, can we enhance it? I mean, yeah, let's go ahead and enhance it to at least 1600 here so that I can see it larger than a postage stamp. All right, so our upscaling here is done. Let's go ahead and view our creation in all its 1600 by 1600 glory. So we opened it in a new tab and we've zoomed in, and I mean, I'm sold that it's a fantasy landscape, but what the hell is this? I mean, this is definitely interesting. We've got fantasy mountains back here. Everything's covered in mist, and there's some, like a strip mall over here. Is that a Dollar Tree? I don't know. I have no idea what this is. This is, the kindest thing I can say about this image is that it's interesting. All right, over on Starry AI, I'm gonna go ahead and, once again, I'm gonna try a different algorithm. We're gonna do Altair. We're gonna paste in our prompt. We're gonna add a style. Let's do 8K resolution, and you know what? Let's live a little. Let's do speed painting, an 8K resolution speed painting. That makes sense. Let's go ahead and do, let's do artwork. And we're gonna go ahead and create. Okay, Starry AI is done with our sprawling fantasy landscape. Well, it's also interesting. All right, so this is right along with the composition of Nightcafe. It's really muddled. It's got a whole lot of elements just kind of shoved in here. There's a big mountain up there, mountain over there, mountain over there. Some sort of Sydney Opera House looking thing right here, and there's no depth to this. It honestly, it looks like a computer just kind of shoved a bunch of stuff on the screen, which that's exactly what happened. Okay, well, you know, I thought the competition would be a little stiffer with landscapes, but Midjourney takes it again. It actually created something that was, you know, comprehensive. It looked like what I was asking for. It's a landscape. It has a sky, it has a ground, it has interesting elements, and it has actual depth. Like it looks like it was created by some sort of intelligence and not just a robot that was throwing crap at the screen. All right, so let's wrap this up with our final rankings. In terms of fidelity, Midjourney gets a 7 out of 10. There are some blurry elements here, but for the most part, things look really good. I mean, what you are asking for is generally what it's gonna put out. There were some missteps with the sword that we tried to create because it had a blade, but it didn't really have much of a crossguard. Its crossguard wasn't what I was expecting. It didn't really have a handle. And all of the other examples that it tried to create didn't really have a sword in it, or the sword was just one big long blade. Midjourney doesn't seem to know what a sword is. Nightcafe, I'm gonna go ahead and give them a 3. Pretty much everything that we've asked Nightcafe to create, it has failed spectacularly on. Starry AI is going to do a bit better on the fidelity front with a 5 out of 10. It was able to create a very convincing humanoid figure, but beyond that, I was really disappointed with a lot of its creations. In terms of quality, for Midjourney, we're going to go ahead and give it another 7 out of 10. There can be some blurry areas to the image, but for the most part, everything is fairly crisp. Their large-scale images leave a bit to be desired, as I think they're about 1600 maximum resolution. That could be a bit better, especially if you want to do print publication. For Nightcafe, the quality of the image is gonna get a 2. The landscape and all of the other images that we created were really blurry. I was very disappointed in the quality of the images. Starry AI is gonna get a 6 out of 10 for quality. It could be better, there is some blurriness, but the size of the image upscales they allow you to do is pretty gargantuan. For control, I'm gonna go ahead and give each one of these a 5. They all provide you with a smattering of various controls that you can toggle on and off and specify different values for, either in the command like with Midjourney or through the interface like with Starry AI and Nightcafe. But they're all pretty on par with each other. The big kicker for me here is that they're all spray and pray approach. You don't know exactly what effect a lot of these things are gonna have on the final image, especially where you're asking for the styles. You don't know what that end result is gonna look like, and you cannot change it once you've generated the image. For ease of use, I'm gonna go ahead and give Midjourney a 5. It's not the easiest thing to get to because you have to use Discord to use it. You have to get on there. You have to read the manual to figure out all of the different switches and whatnot that you can put into your prompt, and it's a bit of a headache. It could be a lot easier if they made this accessible through a web interface. For Nightcafe and Starry AI, I'm gonna go ahead and give both of them an 8 out of 10 for ease of use. They're free to use, easy to sign up, and you can go ahead and just start creating. Their quality has a lot to be desired, but their ease of use is fantastic. Now, as far as cost goes, Midjourney comes in at about $10 a month, and you get about 200 images. Nightcafe is also $10 a month, and you get 100 credits for about 100 images, depending upon how you want to generate those images. Starry AI is $11.99 a month for 50 credits, but you also get 50 credits a day just by being a member. So in total, you'll have about 200 credits a month. All of these costs are fairly comparable, especially between Midjourney and Starry AI. However, Nightcafe lags a little bit behind, so we're gonna give Nightcafe a 5 out of 10 on price, Nightcafe and Starry AI an 8 out of 10. And in terms of the clear winner, it's Midjourney. If you hadn't figured that out already, it's got the best of all of the images from all of the generators that we've tried today. So go ahead, hop over to the Discord server for Midjourney, create some Dungeons & Dragons images, and share them to the Lunch Break Heroes Discord server. I'd love to see what you've got. What sort of creative things can you come up with? Come share them. Let me see them.